What's going on, YouTubers? In this video, I give my honest opinion of Battlefield Hardline so far, but I want to make something absolutely clear before I start talking about the game. I'm not sponsored by EA to make Battlefield videos, and I'm not affiliated with EA in any way. YouTube is not my day job. I couldn't care less how many copies of Battlefield Hardline EA ends up selling, because my primary source of money does not come from making Battlefield YouTube videos. The reason I put so much emphasis on how I'm not sponsored to make this video is because there is a preponderance of dishonesty about Battlefield Hardline from YouTubers who are sponsored by EA to make Battlefield videos. If you don't want to hear an honest review, then don't watch this video. If you only want to hear what you want to hear and not what you need to hear, then go watch LevelCap. Very few things make me genuinely angry. In all aspects of my life, I try to remain positive and give others the benefit of the doubt. With Battlefield Hardline, all bets are off. I have not been this genuinely angry in a long time. Battlefield Hardline is not a game for fans of the Battlefield franchise. EA didn't want the developers to take the game in a logical direction. Instead, they wanted to make a quick cash grab. It's easy to see where the cops and robbers theme for Hardline started. EA saw how popular games Grand Theft Auto and Payday were, and they wanted to ride that wave of popularity. They also wanted to close the gaps between Battlefield releases. Remember, before the game was delayed, they wanted it to release in October 2014, only 1 year after Battlefield 4. EA is really trying to present Hardline as an entirely new game, whereas it has done almost nothing to distinguish itself from Battlefield 4. There are very few new things about the game besides changing the character models to be police and criminals and changing the vehicles to be more law enforcement and criminal oriented. Hardline should be sold as an expansion instead of a full game. EA doesn't respect gamers. They know that most gamers have a short memory and won't think too long about the problems of Battlefield 4. They know that most of the gaming market is casual players who are the most susceptible to advertising. EA spent more money on advertising Hardline than developing Hardline. There is something seriously wrong with that. A large part of that advertising money is getting top YouTubers like LevelCap to talk about Battlefield Hardline. Now that I'm done ranting, I'll explain why I consider Hardline to be such a disgraceful failure. The first issue that I have is the poor choice of police and criminals as the theme. If you want to make a Frostbite engine shooter with police and criminals as opposing sides, then at the very least don't call it Battlefield. As evidenced by recent protests against police brutality, people don't want the police to use our backyards as a battlefield. Nobody wants the war on drugs to be a literal war. If criminals want to rob banks, let them have the money instead of going to war and causing the city millions in taxpayer dollars. Rockets for car chases? Really? Even for the most advanced American tactical units like the FBI Hostage Rescue Team or DoD SWAT, it's hard to picture them getting called in for drug busts and bank robberies with miniguns on helicopters and 50 BMG turrets mounted on armored SUVs. And how are the criminals getting access to this level of gear? Maybe ISIS-funded terrorists in a universe like from the 24 TV show, but Hardline isn't focusing on domestic terrorism, it is focusing on gangs, drugs, and cash. It is very immersion breaking, and it hurts my head to think about the stupid choice of opposing sides. A counter to this criticism is that since it's a video game, it's not supposed to be realistic. The problem is that the game is trying to sell itself as being super serious and analogous to real scenarios. There are just too many incongruencies in game features to allow for suspension of disbelief. Another way that Hardline fails is that the game mechanically has taken steps back from Battlefield 4. The graphics are less polished and look worse than Battlefield 4's. There is almost no destruction in the game. Destruction is one of Battlefield's features that distinguishes it from other first-party shooters. Take away destruction, and as mentioned earlier in the video, you can't call Hardline a Battlefield game. Another huge but controversial feature of Battlefield is suppression. In Hardline, suppression does nothing except give players a black ring around their eye. Even though suppression is controversial among the community, removing it altogether just makes Battlefield closer to the dime a dozen generic shooters of which everyone is tired. Weapon hit detection is so bad that shots to forearms don't even register. I will post a link to the video with evidence if you want to watch it. There are more equipment glitches like how Molotovs can burn through concrete walls. The netcode is comparable to the one from Battlefield 4's launch. There is a lot of dying around corners. On PC, Even gamers with quality systems are having performance issues. Fanboys are going to argue that these criticisms are unfair because the final game isn't out. Using the excuse of Hardline only being a beta right now is not a viable argument against performance problems. The game is 1 month away from release, and the beta we played is close to the final build. There is not enough time to polish the game into an acceptable level. The beta is supposed to help determine how well the servers can manage the player load, and guess what? The connections are awful. You would think that with DICE's experience using the same engine, that netcode would at the very least be improved upon Battlefield 4's early build. Not a chance. And yes, I did mention DICE, even though Visceral is getting developer credit. DICE is a large studio, and even though EA will never allow the details to get disclosed, it is very likely they had divided DICE assets so that they could work on Battlefield 4's main game, Battlefield 4's DLC, and Battlefield Hardline at the same time. With the release schedule of EA Battlefield titles, bugs and code problems are inevitable. Further keeping Hardline from being a distinguished game is how much of the game is simply copy and paste from Battlefield 4. Sorry fanboys, but renaming classes, giving new character and vehicle models, and adding new dialogue isn't enough to call Hardline a new game entirely. The unlock system using money is nothing special, it just adds more grinding. The new perk system doesn't change much in the way of gameplay tactics. There are 2 new modes, Rescue and Crosshair, that are single elimination with 1 life per round. I'm puzzled as to why there hasn't been a lot of coverage of these game modes from the bigger Battlefield YouTubers. There was a glitch in the beta that gave temporary access to Rescue, but it was quickly removed. From the gameplay leaked so far, the maps are too big to make tense action. Low player count competitive Battlefield never really caught on. Hardline had a chance to make this happen, but from what little support the developers have given the mode, the single elimination modes seem to be just an afterthought. I am not going to buy Battlefield Hardline, and I encourage longtime fans of the series not to buy Hardline as well. Hardline is better sold as a map pack or an expansion, not as a full price $60 game. Battlefield 4 still has enough content to keep me playing until Star Wars Battlefront releases. Thank you for watching this video. Please leave a comment about your opinions of Battlefield Hardline. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. My name is David, and I will see you next video.